and welcome to yet another episode of the Vaquero Insider. Of course, as always, I'm your host, Senator Skylar Howell, with my co host,
Senator Andrea Gaitan.
and we have a very special guest with us today. But before we go into all of that, as always, I'm going to hand the floor over to my co host to give a quick disclaimer.
Yes, the views and opinions expressed on the Vaquero Insider podcast are those of us as host and guest and do not reflect the official stance of the Student Government Association as a whole. We are sharing our personal perspectives and ideas as senators, and our discussions are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Awesome. And now, with that being said, I am very excited to introduce our third guest of the program. This is actually a close friend of mine, and he is a former senator of SGA, but he did a lot of good work, and I learned a lot from him, and I definitely took it into my current time here in SGA. And with that being said, I'm going to introduce our guest, Alexis Uskanga. And Alexis, can you just quickly, for all of our viewers, introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Alexis Skanga. Again, the former senator at large for UTRGV this past 2023 session, the ninth legislative session. It was an amazing time. I came in brand new right at the time. I wasn't even a FYI intern like yourselves. I just came in with like actual eagerness to get stuff done, and that was my mission. That was what I did in the time when I served in the student government. I tried to do a lot of advocacy. I tried to do a lot of resolutions. A lot didn't get passed, right? But there's a lot of hope. Just building, including this is a building here.
And I actually wanted to ask you, I asked all of our guests, especially I know our last guest was a current senator of SGA. I kind of want to ask Alexis, why did you join SGA? I know you mentioned that you didn't go through the FYI program, so you didn't necessarily have that building block like me and Andrea did. So what drove you to join SGA?
Well, being fairly honest, I wasn't going to come to UTRGV. I was planning to leave whenever I graduated from high school. I was planning to go to Texas Tech, one of the big universities, because it just the common notion that South Texas, that there's little opportunities. So when I ended up going here, I just wanted to kind of change the aspect that this university doesn't offer a lot when it actually does, because I had that aspect. A lot of people said, oh, you're going to UTRGV, uh, you couldn't have chosen anything better, so that's what I wanted to change, and there can be a lot of change towards that, and I take a lot of pride in being a UTRGV Vaquero now. I'm proud of this university. It's rising up there. I mean, we're number one in Texas, as the billboards say. So I wanted to join the SGA to have more commitment towards making this university a lot greater, to being an advocate.
And that kind of leads into my next question. I know you were in SGA, right? You did a lot of good work there. So, what did it mean to you to be a part of the SGA?
Well, it meant a lot. I got to represent the entire student body of not just Edinburgh, but the entire UTRGV student body. I was elected to represent, I was elected to be their voice. And that means a lot because they entrusted in me to fight for them. And that's exactly what I did. I don't shy away from that. That's exactly what I try to do. And I will continue doing that moving forward.
Awesome. I know you were a huge part to helping me grow as a senator, and you helped a lot of other senators as well. You were very knowledgeable in Robert's Rules of Order and the legislative process. Where did that experience come from, or where did that knowledge come from?
Yeah, so outside of SGA, I also did a lot of advocacy work. Outside of the university, I worked for the former congresswoman, and that helped me a lot on the process. I learned how Congress passes legislation, and then after that, I started getting more involved in like Texas politics. Uh, just learning a lot about how the state house, the state senate works really helps a lot. It like the processes that they go through are very similar to the processes that we go here in the student government, and they use the same rules of order.
It's a very interesting thing to learn. I know when I was first getting started, I didn't really know that much. And slowly, as I started to get more information and do my research, it's just really interesting. The process works. I know a lot of people, it kind of seems boring or long and drawn out. And I get some of those criticisms, but at the same time, if you really dive into it, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world to explore. And so I'm thankful that you kind of helped introduce that to me and to the Student Government Association as well. Now, on this episode, we have a lot to go over. I'm sure you've heard our other episodes. We do Senate meeting highlights, campus updates. So, my last question for this segment is kind of just a simple one. What are you looking forward to today in this episode?
Well, I'm just looking forward to have a conversation with you all about the current stuff that is going on in our university. There's a lot. I myself keep up with the UTRGV Facebook, so there's always something new there. There's always something that students talk about, something that is always going on, something that always pops up, and not just a Facebook, just in general. Students talk a lot about a lot of things going on in our university, so I'm very excited to just get to talk about that here.
And we're very excited as well, Andrea. As we close out this segment, do you have anything you want to say to our viewers or to Alexis, our guest here today?
Well, actually, I had a question for you, Alexis. I know that when I was coming in barely as a senator for the College of Business, I didn't really get to, I guess I didn't run into you as much, compared to Skylar. But did you have, I guess, like a favorite moment when you were coming in as senator at large for Edinburgh?
Yeah, I actually did. So when I was running, I connected with a lot of people. So I would say just the campaign trail, first of all, was actually a pretty exciting time. I mean, I was not. It was actually not uncontested because a lot of Senate races are uncontested. So this one I was like very incredibly contested because there was a lot more candidates than usual. So only four can make it to that spot. So you really have to fight for it. And that's exactly what I did during the campaign trail. And I met a lot of the people that I'm connected with now.
I think that's a good point to bring up. I think campaigning really does bring out a different leader out of you because it's different a campaign because when you're there doing the role that you were elected, right, you're already in office, you're there to kind of focus on getting the job done, right, getting
Yeah.
the work done. Campaigning is all about connecting with other people, and I
Yeah.
think that's a very important part of leadership. To me, a good leader is able to do both, where they're able to get the work done, but also connect with the people. And the
Exactly.
campaigning is the way to connect with the
Yeah.
people. And if, in your case, since it was very competitive, I think it kind of drove you to connect with more people rather
Exactly.
than if it was uncontested. I know me and Andrea for our elections we were uncontested actually, but we still wanted to push out our message, and I think we did a very good job of that. But I think that's a very interesting point. And with that being said, we're gonna go into a music break, and when we come back, we're gonna go over the last Senate meeting of the semester highlights. There was actually a lot to cover, and we'll get into all of that when we come back. And welcome back. And for this segment, as always, we're going to go over the Senate meeting highlights that took place this past Friday. And this one was a little bit different, Andre. Of course, this was our final one for the semester. So there was a lot to cover. And I'm glad we have both a current senator and a former senator here so you can get that different perspectives on it. So, really quickly, we started off with the president's report. President Sines just reported that they're continuing to appoint students to the university committees. Of course, they're pending applications. For the past few weeks, they've been pushing these university committees. It's a great leadership opportunity, and if anyone's interested, just go to VLink and you can search it up on VLink. And then, of course, our Vice President Jimenez just gave us some pending details on applications for current SGA candidates. I think she said that they were waiting some details before they finalize the application. I'm sure next semester we'll see who those future, hopefully, senators are, and we'll get more information on that. On the advisor reports, this was actually very interesting. Our advisor, Miss Courtney, reported that the recent first-year internship graduation rate was 100%. So, Andrea, all 9 interns were able to complete the program. I think that's amazing. She also announced that in spring they will also have the program as well. So that was great news for me to hear that the program's going to continue and that it was such a success this semester. Now, for the standing committee reports, we didn't have anything to report on academic affairs. For campus life and community affairs, I just reported that it was the at that time, November 15th, it was the last day for the canned food drive event that was taking place. Of course, I kept you all updated on that. So we hope to see the numbers here pretty soon, and we hope for a good turnout. For the financial report, this one's probably going to be the most important today. They announced that their last meeting will take place, actually did take place on the 17th. And now for all future spring travel fund applications that were submitted this semester, the advisors are going to review them now. So very important detail there, and nothing for internal affairs. Now, for the highlight of the Senate meeting was under the new business section, and we had, Andrea, 3 resolutions presented and passed. That's the most we've had all semester, and I want to say it might be tied or it might be for all year, even going back to last semester as well. We rarely have one. It's very rare we get 2, 3, almost unheard of, so that's very good, and I'll kind of go over all of them. So the first one, of course, was the Week of Valor resolution. To all of our familiar listeners, I had been speaking on this for the past 2 weeks, I believe, and we got it done. So I'm thankful for all of our senators who helped me push it as quickly as it was pushed, and we were able to get it passed. So it was a resolution honoring UTRGV student veterans for the Week of Valor. For our second resolution that was passed, it was for the College of Engineering and Computer Science resolution. It's just a resolution recognizing the College of Engineering and Computer Science at UTRGV, and that was authored by Jose Tavares. And Senator Jose Tavares also authored the third resolution, which was the Dr. Karen Lozano courtesy resolution, and that was just a resolution recognizing Dr. Karen Lozano's efforts and contributions at UTRGV. And finally, just for the comments and announcements, I really wanted to make a point, and I thought it was important to announce and to congratulate all our graduating senators, but also our Senate as a whole for a very successful semester. So with that being said, a lot to go over. I'm going to first hand it over to Andrea. What were your thoughts on this past meeting?
Well, it was very interesting, the fact that we had 3 resolutions, and especially on our very last meeting, it was very unheard of, but it was such a great way to, I guess, finish off the chapter for this first semester. And I actually got to speak with all of the authors for these 3 resolutions. So, for example, the Week of Valor one, I got to speak very well with your co-author, and I think he did a very good job. He was very enthusiastic while presenting the resolution, so I was very proud of him. And for Jose Tavares, I know I got to speak with him before the meeting started, and I expressed interest in it because I mentioned I've seen the programs that they've been doing, the past couple of years. So it was really kind of him to not just make 1, but 2 courtesy resolutions that, got successfully passed. So yeah, I'm very proud of all of the authors, all of the sponsors, and I know we were all in a bit of a time crunch, but, you still managed to get it done. So I'm very proud of everyone for that.
Thank you. And what do you feel about, of course, our graduating senators? I know I have a lot of close friends that are graduating. Of course, Senator David Salinas, Senator Kayla White, even Senator Joshua Saceda as well, even our Chief Justice. So we did have some graduating senators. Of course, Senator Tavares, what are your thoughts on just the graduating senators and the fact maybe we won't see them anymore, right? But maybe in the future we'll cross paths again.
I think it was a very bittersweet moment because we all get to work together in these organizations, but at the same time, you do get to have those friendships at the end of the day. So I did get really close with them, a lot of the graduate senators as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a bittersweet moment. And like I mentioned, Jose Tavares is also graduating. So the fact that he pushed out 2 resolutions on the last meeting kind of like ended his journey in SJ with a bang. I think it was great.
And I know we mentioned last week that he also got the Mentor of the Year. So
Yes,
he
he
went
did.
out in a pretty good way. Mentor of the Year and 2 resolutions getting passed. That's awesome. It really says about him, a lot about him. And now I'm going to actually hand the floor over to our guest, Alexis. You've been in SGA, you've seen these Senate meetings. What are your thoughts on this final Senate meeting based on the information and highlights that I provided?
3 resolutions is almost unheard of, right? Whenever we were in the Senate together, we could barely get some done as quickly as that. So I'd like to congratulate everyone that passed resolutions, and because that's a big deal. Especially yours, Skylar. I have a lot of veteran friends, and they're going to be very appreciative to know that their student government is working for them, that their student government cares about them. Because a lot of our veterans, like especially here on campus, uh, there's some resources here and there, but they don't feel that they're being recognized enough.
And
So
that's exactly what it was for, to recognize them and let them know that as a student government association and as a student body, because we are the voice of the student body at the end of the
exactly,
day, that we appreciate them and we wanted to recognize them. So I really felt that it was important to get it done within that week of valor.
yeah,
And like I said, I'm not done. I know our viewers have heard of another initiative I want to do for our veterans, and hopefully that'll get passed, but that's going to take some time. But other than that, what are some other thoughts you had on the Senate meeting, or maybe some things that you would like to see moving forward?
yeah. So this is actually a great start. Three resolutions. I mean, there's more senators, right? I hear that there's more involvement now in student government with our senators. They're trying to get out the legislative process as quickly as possible to put their initiatives to the test. And again, the student government, we or you all now, it's not much, right? But just doing enough is it can be seen by all the students.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it was a little bittersweet because it was our last Senate meeting, but we were very happy that it was productive, and we're looking forward to our future Senate meetings. Hopefully, we'll continue that level of production as far as the legislative process goes. And yeah, I mean, I know it's going to be a whole new cast of characters next semester. We're going to lose some senators. We're going to gain some new senators, hopefully, including our interns, who I know you've met as well, Alexis. So I think the future of SGA is in good hands, and I'm just pretty much looking forward to it. And so, with that being said, Alexis, I guess I kind of wanted to follow up on our previous segment. So I know we kind of explained how you got in SGA and what your work was within SGA. I guess take me through the process from when you were in SJ to now. What's happened, and what brings us to where you are now?
So from the start, it's everything is very new. You get this big binder, or not big binder, but you just get all these rules, and you have to read the Constitution, and you have to know how to write legislation, and that's a pretty daunting task for incoming people, because you go in there with the notion that you're gonna do something, but then whenever they hand you like this is how you play by the rules, you have to. So, when I first started, I started learning the SGA Constitution. I started learning the Robert's Rules of Order. That I already kind of knew the process, just that SGA just made it a lot better and easier. So then I just started writing initiatives that I wanted to see. And the big one that I take a lot of pride in is the Legislative Transparency Act. Because I feel that students need to be more involved in seeing exactly what their representatives are doing.
Actually, and I want to touch on that. Me and you co-authored the
Yes.
Legislation Transparency Act, and for those who aren't aware, it's so close to being finalized. So I'm more confident speaking on it now. But pretty much now, for the first time, you as a student are going to be able to see what the SGA has been doing for you as far as legislation. Before, it was very hard for a student to kind of get an answer as far as what the Student Government Association is doing for them.
Yeah.
And now they're going to have direct access, and they can see all the legislations that were passed or denied or presented. And I think it's just going to kind of give the students more confidence in their Student Government Association. And
Yeah.
I'm so proud to have been able to co-author on that with you. And so I know that also led me to do the Legislation Efficiency Act, which you're aware of as well. So yeah, I mean, you pretty much really kicked it off as far as the transparency, and I'm looking forward to continuing the work and seeing where that takes us at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts on the Senate meeting itself, Andrea, before we wrap up this segment?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Just, going back to saying, for it being our last Senate meeting and doing so well, I think it opened up, I guess, almost a door into what January is going to be, like our first Senate meeting for the new semester. So I don't know. I think it was a good way to kind of kick that off, and I'm very optimistic for the next few months.
Awesome. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this segment, and we're going to go into our most popular segment next, Alexis, which is our campus updates. And we have a lot to go over,
I've heard.
and I'm very interested to get your thoughts and opinions on it when we come back. Once again, thank you so much, Alexis, and to our listeners, we'll be right back. And welcome back. And of course, as always, we're going to go over our most popular segment, which is campus updates. And I first want to start off with, I guess, going over some resources that are available to students at UTRGV. Without going into too much detail, I do know there was a lot of awareness brought up regarding these resources available on campus. So I thought it was important to go over all of them on air. That way, our listeners or our students who either don't know about it now know about it, or they can tell a friend, and hopefully their friend will be able to use any of these resources if it's needed. Firstly, I want to go over the Campus Shield app. So this is an app where if there's anything troubling going on, right, you as a student have access to an app called Campus Shield, and pretty much it will alert the university police to any situation that you may have going on, and that way they can go over and respond as quickly as possible to help whatever situation you may be in. I also want to go over Vaquero Report It. If you're ever in an instance where you as a student feel uncomfortable or something doesn't look quite right, the Vaquero Report It website, and also I think it's an app as well, is also a resource for a student to report something suspicious going on campus. It is anonymous as well, so no one will know who reported what, but the important thing is that a student has access to this so that they know that they can report it without any consequence if they for whatever reason feel scared to. And lastly, I want to go over OVAP, which is I believe it's for the Office of Advocacy Violence Prevention.
Yes.
And pretty much this resource is there to help students who are maybe potentially, like I said, feeling uncomfortable or going through a situation, and they need just some resource. They need someone to talk to, or even to escort them to certain places. I do know OVAP does offer that as well. And so I want to turn the floor over to you, Andrea. Obviously, as a female, you would be more inclined, or I'm sure you're more aware of these resources. And so what are your thoughts on all of these resources? And maybe what are your thoughts on some reports last week of, some unusual activity taking place at UTRGV?
Well, I think they're all, especially here at UTRGV, they are very good resources. It was one of the first things that I got to hear, especially when we had our orientation, but they really put an emphasis, especially on the females. Okay, the Campus Shield app, that was one of the very first things that we were recommended to download. And I know a lot of these things, they are also anonymous. I know that when I was a senator for the College of Business, barely starting out in SGA, I did have, some students reaching out to me saying, okay, I want to report this, but I want to remain anonymous. I don't want it to cause a scene or any sort of that. So I think these are very good. And in terms of what has been said during the Facebook group chat, I think it was very unfortunate, and I completely understand. I've had my fair share of experiences on the UTRGV campus, so I would just say it is very important to, one, report it through UTRGV if possible. If not, definitely campus police or just police in general outside of Edinburgh, I think. No, you know what, not even just in Edinburgh, just in Brownsville, wherever you are in general. So again, it was a very unfortunate event, and I know we all got to see it, so I don't know, what were your thoughts on it when it was first coming up? Because this has been going on for a few hours. At least the first day, it was really blowing up.
Of course, it's unfortunate to see that sort of thing happen. And I know when I first saw the initial reports on it, the first thing I did is I thought it was important to let the students know about the resources available to them. So what I try to do on the UTRGV students chat is I try to comment on as many posts I could find relating to that sort of situation about all the resources that I just mentioned right now, because I think prior to this incident, a lot of students weren't necessarily aware of all these resources. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to let them know and be aware of all the resources available to them. And so that was my first initiative, right? I'm not a police officer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not any of those things, unfortunately, but I am a student senator who cares and wants to let the students know the resources available to them, and that's what I had tried to do, and I think it was a success. I know a bunch of students, at least a good number of students, commented back to me or let me know that they weren't aware of this, and now that they are, they will definitely move forward. So I think I did my job in that sense, and I'm incredibly grateful. Wish it was under better circumstances, but hey, things happen, and at least now the university student body is more aware of the resources available to them. But on a lighter note now, I'm actually going to switch topics completely because I did see another topic go kind of viral on the UTRGV students Facebook group chat, and that was advice on how to find friends at UTRGV. Apparently, I'm not the only one. No, I'm just joking. But I do know when I was first starting off as a freshman, my first semester, I did have friends coming from high school, so it was a lot easier for me. But I do know that not a lot of other students have that same opportunity. And so it can get very lonely on the university if you don't have any prior friends and, you're just kind of getting adjusted to the university life. And so, Andrea, what is your advice on how to find friends at UTRGV?
I think the biggest one, and I know I saw a lot of comments mentioning this. I think the number one thing, and I think you can agree with me, is joining a student organization. Alexis?
Yep, I can agree. I can attest to that.
Your head nodding, so I
Yep.
know you kind of agree with me. I think that is the best way to get connected on campus, and everyone has their own experiences. I know I had a few friends from high school, all coming into UTRGV, but the first year and a half was not the easiest when it comes to actually making friends. I don't know if it's because, we were all new and maybe we did not want to speak to each other, but I think the friendships that were made on this campus are always under the weirdest circumstances. So, for example, one of my two close friends, I met them in a class for business, and I think I complimented one of them on like their shoes. And and it started a 2-year-long friendship. So, Alexis, I don't know if you've, I'm gonna turn the floor over to you. I don't know if you had any, experiences in the beginning with, maybe having a harder time making friends, or do you think it was easy on your end?
Well, I came in just exactly like both of you said. We come in from high school. Locally here, I'm from Harlingen South, so a lot of my friends came over to Edinburgh campus, but then a lot of them went to the Brownsville campus. So it was very hard to connect with other people, but ultimately, same classes. You form group chats, and then sometimes you're like, "Do you know when is the homework? When is this and that?" And then you just connect with them on other levels other than just school, and that's how you create that's how I created my
And
friendships.
my number one recommendation was student organizations. To
Absolutely.
me, that's almost what they're there for.
Yeah.
I know I met Andrea, I met you technically through a student organization, right? If we're counting Student Government Association, and of my other organization that I'm a part of, CEO, I've met a lot of friends through there. So I would say just go through student organizations, and there's so many at UTRGV to where find something that you're interested in, right? For me, it was business, right? So when I joined CEO, I knew I was going to go into an organization with people that also loved business. And so you already have that in common. So it's a lot easier to start a friendship or to start a conversation with something that you all share in common.
Yeah.
And UTRGV has so many different organizations for so many different interests and hobbies that there's probably an organization for you. You just have to find them. And once you're in, you'll find friends, and hopefully you'll, make long-lasting relationships.
You can even rush a fraternity or a sorority.
Yes.
So
yes, exactly.
there's options.
Yeah, there's definitely options, and for those who are still a little shy, right, to join a student organization, my best advice would be just give it a try. But if not, I think the UTRGV students group chat on Facebook is also a great way. I've seen people make friends through there by just posting anonymously, "I need friends," and then there'll be a couple comments of, I guess, students who want to be their friend, and hey, that's a friendship made. And so if you're really that shy, just go anonymous on the UTRGV students
Yeah.
group chat. Chances are, actually, I'll answer as well. I know I see them all the time, and every time I see it, I'll answer, "Hey, Senator Schuyler here. I'm your friend," right? And so if you want to get a reply by me, just post that, and I'll make sure to reply. Our last segment is going to be over course evaluations. There was a big controversy on whether they're anonymous or not. I guess students, they don't know if they're anonymous, and if they're not, that can put you in a pretty awkward situation, pretty much rating your professor with them knowing who you are. I don't know. I would be scared. I don't even, uh, like to get into it. I'm too shy. I just say whatever. But I did see some confusion on that. So, Andre, do you want to speak a little bit on that?
Yes, so course evaluations, they are anonymous, but the professors can see what you typed in the comments. So they won't know who typed it, but I know some students were saying that their professors knew exactly who they were. But I think that was because if you're writing it in a very detailed way, so for example, an experience that you had with a professor during office hours, then the professor's gonna know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
And it is very scary, but I think course evaluations, they are a fun time because we get extra credit, at least for some professors. So they'll say, screenshot it. They usually, well, they shouldn't ask, exactly what they had put as the results. But even if it just says the thank you student, blah, 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 for taking the course evaluation for this course, usually it's like, what, 5 to 10
Yeah,
points?
it's like they give you a receipt, and that way you just screenshot it, send it to them, and extra credit.
Yeah, it's good for our grades.
Yeah.
It's a fun time to talk about it. I think everyone's opinions tend to come out during that time, both good, some controversial, but I think it's a genuinely good time for our grades.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always had great professors myself, so I never had to write a bad evaluation. I think the good thing about communications. You have good
Yeah,
professors.
there we go, to the long awaited answer to the questions. Yes, course evaluations are anonymous. Just keep in mind that the comments, they are visible to teachers as well. So if you're a little too specific or you talk a certain way, your teacher may or may not figure you out. But with that being said, we're going to go into yet another music break. And when we come back, we're going to go into a little bit of legislative agendas, mostly from our guest, like I said, a former senator. And I'm hearing word that maybe he has more to do, and I'm sure he'll get into all of that when we come back. And we are back, and now we get to tackle my personal favorite segment is the legislative agendas. And we have like I said, if you've been listening to this episode so far, we have a former senator on here, former senator Alexis Uscanga, and I'm just going to hand over the floor to him. Alexis, what kind of legislative agendas do you have in mind for the future as far as your work goes?
Yeah, so my big work has been obviously to champion transparency. I feel like a lot of university students don't know what the student government is. There's already been problems with that. I've talked about it in my campaign trail when I was running for vice president. But I've said this over and over again. Students don't know what their student government is doing for them, and that's a problem that we need to address. I'm super thankful for you and Andrea for being active. People know who you are. They know what you represent because you're out there. And I know a lot of people from the Facebook group that they're like, oh, I didn't know what the SGA was. I didn't know there was a senator position. So, if anyone listening here is interested in joining the student government, elections are going to be around what, March?
Correct.
March through April.
Actually, yeah. So it's a few months ago, it was April 1st through April 4th. So it'll be in springtime. Yes.
Yeah. So there's a deadline to submit your application, and if you are feeling passionate about representing the student body, if there's something that you don't see being done in your certain college or in the university as a whole, then I would urge every one of the listeners who are frustrated with the university, with your college, or with certain things that is not getting done, to run for student government. It is the vehicle for advocacy, and you can actually get a lot of stuff done. I will be running again myself, so I'm not going to say for which position at the moment.
Breaking news to our listeners. We have it here. Alexis, he chose the Vaquero Insider to be his first official announcement of his upcoming candidacy. Well, thank you for breaking the news. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to throw it in there, the
Of
breaking news
course.
for our listeners. But please continue on some of your agendas and what you hope to implement moving forward.
Number one, transparency. I just feel that we need to be more out there with the student government to tell students, exactly what we're doing, exactly what we're gonna plan to do for them. Uh, so, on a big one, it incurs legislation. What are their representatives getting done for them? So, if there's issues that are going on, for example, in the College of Liberal Arts, that's my college. I didn't represent it because I did at large, but if there's representatives for the College of Liberal Arts that students are complaining, then they should tell their senators exactly, get something done, get stuff done. Uh, so that's a big one. And then also budget transparency. I feel like students need to know exactly how much their student government is spending. Uh, Not just our student government, but just every college as a whole, and even the university. What is being spent on, because we pay money to go to this university. Uh, a lot of people pay out of pocket. A lot of people pay through scholarships. A lot of people pay through financial aid. So we just want to know exactly where our money's going, and we want to know if it's being distributed to us fairly. For example, if there's not a lot of resources, and there's been a lot of complaints back just a few years ago about the arts department, I want students to know that that money is going there if they already made a complaint about it. So that's a big part of my agenda, and also just making sure, like I said over and over again, making sure that people know what their student government is doing. A big part of that is by redesigning the website. Just making sure to push for a new website, because if you look at other student governments from other universities, they have good websites. They even give you a link to check what they're doing. And that was one of my big things. Whenever I saw UT Austin, their student government was doing a heck of a bunch than we were. I was just like, let's compete with them. They're representing their students very well. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of the things that they're pushing over at UT Austin, but if you want to push a certain thing, then get involved, write legislation. Even students can write legislation. It's not too hard. I mean, there's a certain template you have to follow, but you can even tell your senators to help you with that. They're there to represent you, and they were elected there to represent you.
Awesome. I think I think you hit on a bunch of great points, and I share very similar views to you as far as the transparency. And like I said, we co-authored a legislation together, and
Yeah.
hopefully it goes well in your candidacy. And I would look forward to co-authoring and authoring a whole lot more with you regarding that. And so I really appreciate your time here today. And before we wrap up, I kind of wanted to ask. What is your takeaway from this episode? I know I asked our last guest, what his experience was like, but what was your experience like here today on the Vaquero Insider?
Yeah, this was very informative. I hope more students get to listen to this. I will personally tell friends, everyone who attends my classes, I'll be like, tune in.
There we
Tune in
go.
on Mondays, because this is a great way to spread the message about what's going on, especially in the student government. I'm very proud of Senator Andrea Gaitan and Senator Skylar Howell for doing this initiative to keep students informed. And I think that that's the main premise of what we've been fighting for.
Uh, You hit it right on the right on the nail, and I really appreciate the kind words. And with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and just reiterate. Just we want to thank the listeners so much as we wrap up this episode. We thank you so much for tuning in, taking the time to listen to us. We're trying to be the best co-host and host and radio show that we can be for the students. At the end of the day, we do this for you all, and we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. Of course, you can always find me on my Senator pages. For Instagram, it's going to be Senator underscore Skylar. And for Facebook, it's going to be Senator Skylar. And Andrea, can you please give them where they can reach you in case they need anything?
Yes, for me, it's going to be Senator_Andrea Gaitan, and that's going to be for both my Facebook and Instagram page.
Awesome. And so, Alexis, we have a tradition. I'm sure you heard at the very beginning, I stated my name, Andre stated her name, and together we said this is the Vaquero Insider. We're going to do the exact same thing, except you're going to state your name after Andrea as we close out the episode. So, once again, thank you so much to all of our listeners. I'm your host, Senator Skylar Howell.
I'm Senator Andrea Gaitan.
And I'm guest, former Senator Alexis Uscanga.
And this is the Vaquero
Vaquero
Insider.
Insider.
Thank you all so much. And next episode is going to be our last episode for the semester. So we'll make sure to make sure to give you as much information as we can. We thank you all for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.